Okay, here's a movie about how to do a floral pattern on a ring, and I'm going to use Matrix Art for this, and I'm going to use DG to get the picture ready. So here we go. Let's start out with the finger rail, and I'm going to create my own profile for this, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. I'm going to go to Curve, Arc Direction. This is going to be a comfort fit, and I'm going to make a profile about like so. Let's put that on a different layer, and then we're going to move from the midpoint to the mid of the circle. So there's that. I'm also going to have a rounded lip here, and then a domed top to the ring as well. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go away from this just a little bit and come up, and I'm going to look at the angle of this curve and kind of match my angle to that as close as I can get. And let's go ahead and use blend from here to here. Okay, that's a little off, so let's move it down. And I always do this just so that there's no hard edge there. And now let's go ahead and do another dome out like so. And I'm going to move this up out of the way, and I'm going to go ahead and mirror this to the other side. And let's join that up. And now I'm going to go ahead and move this to the center and then up. And let's 1D scale that out a little bit. The reason I'm not making that match is because to get a neater edge there, I want to use blend once again. And let's go blend from here to here and from here to here. Now this is going to be one profile, and this one is going to be another profile. So now we will go ahead and sweep one like so, and let's switch layers and do sweep one again. And there's our shank. Okay, now let's go over and prep our image that we're going to use as the floral pattern on our band. I'm going to head over to good old Digital Goldsmith over here. Now here's a scan that I took out of a book that just has a bunch of Victorian style art, just plates of that, and the one that I chose happens to be right here. So we'll go ahead and hit edit crop on that. There's the pattern, and it's a pretty good scan. You can use the scan, you know, as you see it. If you want some of this gray, and you want to, the more gray tones there are in the picture, the more varying heights that you'll get. For what I wanted, I really wanted this pattern to just come up full and flat, and so I pushed the contrast. So I came up and hit the contrast button a couple times, and then depending on which way that contrast button is going to skew the colors, I need to go ahead and lighten this up. So I'm just going to draw a lasso here and go up and say brighten, and then I'm going to hit that a couple times, and then eventually this image, what I'm looking for, and you can do this in any program if you have Photoshop or whatever, but here you can see the difference between what's truly white and what isn't. And if we come over to the color picker, 255 of course is pure white, which is falling within everywhere I click here, and if we have true black, 000. So there I push the contrast to that image way up. And then I'm also going to crop this image like so. So let's go ahead and get rid of this one. Now, on this one, I'm going to go ahead and close this one too, free up some memory here. If you look at this item, there's a repeat right here and right here. So that's all I'm really interested in working with, and so I'm just going to kind of ballpark this, and there you go. So now we're going to say edit crop again, and there's my image that I'm going to be working with. Now, the way that the matrix art works is that dark colors stay down and bright colors, or white, come up. And so since I've pushed this, I'm obviously going to have a very low level and a very high level to the image. The problem is that I want just the pattern to show, because I want to put a texture back in this background. Well, I can't just tell this white to stay and this white to stay, or to go away. So really, to prep this image, we have one of two choices. We can trace the image in Matrix and go around the bitmap, or we can prep it in the bitmap state. And so what I chose to do on this one was to simply trace this thing. And I'll go ahead and do one real quick, like, just so we can see what we're going to get. And I actually wasn't all that careful, although I am tracing this one here. And then I made sure that anti-alias was on in DG, and then I just hit the trash can. And I went around and just threw that stuff away everywhere where there was negative space in this design. Okay, here's the image all traced out. I feel like I'm on one of those cooking shows where they kind of mix up all the ingredients and put it in a pan, and all of a sudden they cut to a commercial and they go to the oven and the thing is done. But there's the image traced. I called it Floral Design. And so let's head on back over to Matrix, and we'll lay out the groundwork for what's going to go on here. In order to get the right aspect ratio for the bitmap, I'm going to go ahead and go to View and Place Background Bitmap, and I'm going to click on Floral Design and open that image. And the reason I do that is that now, right here, I know exactly what the length and width of that image is, because this part of the program locks to its aspect ratio. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, next I'm going to go ahead and draw a curve, and it's important to know that Matrix Art works from, this is the bottom layer and it goes up, and then it starts here again and goes up. So this is the highest layer and this is the lowest layer. So I'm going to go ahead and start on the lowest layer. I'm going to get curve, rectangle, and I'm basically just going to look at this image and draw very close to what that aspect is. As you can see, I cropped my image right down to the edge of the image, which makes it much easier to work in this builder because I don't have a bunch of black space out here with a poorly cropped image. So you really want to crop your image right down to the edge of the bitmap. Okay, with that done, let's go ahead and go to Matrix Art, and we'll take this curve and put it in the curves box. So whenever you apply a bitmap, you always have to have a curve for the bitmap to be applied to. You can't just say, I want to build a surface from a bitmap. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and load a flat profile, because I don't want any dome or any different shape to this core floral pattern. So there you can see that I loaded the flat profile, and here's the thickness. I'm actually going to take this down to nothing. 0.04 is as close to nothing as I'm going to get. I'm also going to raise the resolution up, and I'm going to just go to a medium resolution here, and then once I like what I see, I can always crank the resolution up higher. Sometimes you actually get a better result with a lower resolution, so you want to be careful. If you crank this thing, you're going to make a mesh that is just overbearing. Okay, let's go to picture, and let's load that bitmap. And that was called Floral Design. So we'll open that. And it'll take it a minute, if it's a large bitmap like that one, to actually start to see it. So boom, there it is. And so far so good. Right now, what we need to do is make this thing the height that we want. And so let's go ahead and go down to, I guess, somewhere in about the 0.5 millimeter range or so is probably fine. Maybe we'll go up to that. You can of course type that in if you want. So there's a 0.5 millimeter high, but as you can see over here, it's not fitting very well. So with maintain aspect on, I'm just going to go ahead and click on fill shape, and that will make this thing automatically go in and match. And that's why it's so important that we wanted to match the aspect ratio of the curve to the bitmap, so that when we hit fill shape, we'll get a true fill of that shape. Okay, now that I like that, let's go ahead and I'm going to go up to about 25 and hit update resolution. And there you go. So now you can see that we have very sharp lines. And let me show you another tool that's very effective here. You can see that we have some noise in here. And we can control that over here in the effects menu. The first thing that we can do is we can somewhat blur the image if we want, to try to cut down on some of this. So here's a low blur, a medium, and high blur. And so it's just blurring the image and softening it. You can decide what you like there. Perhaps a low is good. And then we can adjust the contrast of the image being used. And what that does is it can bring the bottom up, and it can take the top down. And the more we average the pixels of the image, the more we'll get rid of some of this noise. So let's go ahead and adjust the low end and pull the slider up, and if you watch, especially right down in here, you'll see those start to go away. Okay. You know, you can decide. I'm going to put a big texture behind this, so I'm not too awful concerned about that. And then of course you can do the high end, and you can take that contrast down, and you can start to get rid of some of those high spots too. And you can see my machine's really starting to chunk now with the display. Okay, the other thing that I want to do is, because we put this on black, we can get rid of this surface here. So if I come back over here to picture, I can come down here to trim the bitmap, and what that does is that says, hey, if this is pure black, I can trim it out and not have a surface there. So if we say trim the bitmap on, boom, there goes anything that was on pure black the way that we traced it. And that way when we generate the mesh, we'll have holes in it. You know, one neat effect would be, of course, to get rid of the shank beneath this, and then you'd have a pierced out look very easily. Okay, once you're happy with all the settings and height and any blending or anything that you did, you want to go ahead and hit Create Mesh, and we'll go ahead and do that. There we go. And I'm immediately going to put this on a different layer color. And there we go. Now, in order to put this pattern onto the ring, I actually wanted to repeat the pattern so that it's, you know, a smaller pattern. I don't want just this going around the whole ring, although you certainly could. So having said that, let's go ahead and take that off this layer and hide it. I'm going to go ahead and just move this thing over, and you can see just how big this thing is and how my redraw is going. Now what I did there is I inadvertently forgot to press the Alt key to get a copy of that. So here's a little trick for you. If I hit Control C now and copy that to the clipboard, now I can hit Undo and undo the move. And then I can hit Control V and paste and kind of go back in time there. So now let's go ahead and shade the looking down, and let's match this up. So now we can simply click on the mesh and move this thing over. Oops, got a little aggressive there. Although it's not bad. So I'm just trying to get rid of this step as best I can, but okay, we'll call that good enough for today. And so there's my pattern. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to use the command apply mesh UVN to put this pattern up on the ring. So let's go ahead and select this pattern, and you have a 50-50 chance of this thing going on the outside of the band or the inside of the band. One way that we can kind of check for this is to go to Utilities and Directions, and I have found that it doesn't always go on correct. Generally you want the direction normals to point out like they are in this example. If they were pointing in, you'd just left click on the surface and you can toggle those back and forth. I'm just left clicking. But it still might put it on the inside. I haven't found the magic way to make this thing do it the same way every time, so I'll show you what I do if it does it wrong. I'm going to go ahead and select the pattern. I'm going to go to Utilities, and right here is Apply Mesh UVN. Okay, select the surface to apply the meshes to. We click on that surface, and we wait. And it did it correctly. Yay. Okay, now we have a gap here, and this is where it seamed the outside ends together. And there's not much we can do to control that. I would recommend just fixing it in the wax. Down here is actually the seam that we put together ourselves, and it's you know, I guess it's okay in my book. If you guys want to mess with the image more, you could certainly do that. Okay, so there's that part. With that done, just to free up some memory, I'm going to go ahead and well, I'll put these in a job bag, and then I'm gonna wipe those out. Okay, now let's go ahead and put our texture back here. And to do that, we're going to kind of do the same thing that we did before, only this time, in order to get my box that's my aspect ratio, I'm simply going to go up to Curve and go down to Create UV Curves, and there is a box that is representative of that surface. Now, in this case, so that I can control both of these textures that we're putting on the surface, I chose to do these separately. You could always do multiple curves in the same process and have the texture and the surface be built together so that they are one mesh. It's entirely up to you. But anyway, I kind of like freedom of choice here. So now let's take this curve and put it in the box. Okay, then we'll go back to the layer and we'll make sure that our height is set low, which it is. And let's take the resolution down for a moment, and we'll hit update resolution. Okay, now let's go get our bitmap. Now in this one I kind of cheated, and I used a texture that I knew I had from the ClayTools ARM. They have some, oops, wrong place. They have some good repeatable patterns, but you can find these in a lot of software, and I believe the one that I used was this one called Concrete. And like I say, you can there's clip art libraries you can get. There's all sorts of places where you can find repeating patterns. I'll try to find some and post some links here. So the next thing we need to do is I'm actually going to say tile bitmap, so that that thing starts to just repeat on out into infinity. And I'm going to take my height down to, let's say, 0.21, give or take. And then I'm just going to come in and look at this and decide, you know, what do I want this to look like? How tight or how loose do I want this grain to be? And of course, you have to keep in mind milling and casting and cleaning and all that. But there's a pretty good texture. I'll just go ahead and update the resolution to about here. And with that done, I'll hit Create Mesh. And let's put this on another metal layer like so. And then we click on the mesh, go over to Utilities, Apply Mesh UVN. Click on that. And we wait. There we go. Yeah, my texture, could be a little finer maybe. I don't know. And I'm going to go ahead, because this seam is just agitating me, I'm going to go ahead and rotate my ring 90 degrees here. So we'll go F4, type 90. Okay, there's the rotation 90 degrees, and we're looking at the ring over on this side, and so you can see we have a nice texture here. We have our pattern, and just for fun, I thought we'd go ahead and I'd show you kind of what I've been doing for rendering lately. I've been using the render styler, and first thing I do is pick the metal. I usually use this yellow medium, and then I still like the less specular family of shaders, but you know, you're welcome to try. Here's a new one, highly polished. A lot of people like that one. So let's go ahead and right click all my metal colors here, and we'll go ahead and assign those colors to that. Don't have any gems to worry about. Under the style, I really enjoy this dark environment gray right here, or here's a bit of a darker one. This one's nice. One's reflective and one isn't. Tell you the truth, I can't remember which one's which. Let's go ahead and hit calculate for the ground plane. And I'll go ahead and hit render. Okay, and through the magic of hitting the pause key, my render is done. Or perhaps I should tell you my machine is that fast. Anyway, here's a render of this item, and it looks pretty good, although to me this is getting a bit bright. We're starting to lose detail because of the highlight. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. Now here's a little trick that you can do in this builder. about the time you learn this, we will have changed the way it works. We're getting ready to do a patch, and in the patch we're going to change how this menu works because it's kind of cumbersome. What happens is that if you make any changes here in any of these, okay, when you hit render, we have to load each thing that you add in, including this environment, which means number one, we have to take this model out of the scene, load a new scene with these lights and the colors that go with that scene, and then we have to regenerate the mesh and render. Well, the drag of that is that if I go ahead and move one of these lights, but then hit render, it's going to load the old scene and the light will be back over here. We're going to take care of that in the next patch, like I say. For now, though, I'm going to move these lights over closer to where we're viewing the object from, which actually, sorry, I'm on the, if you look over here, I'm on the back side of the object, so we're actually standing over here. And then I'm going to hit Control T, which is Properties, or you could go Edit, Object Properties, either one. And then I go not to the object, but to the light, and I'm just going to take the 20 down to about 12. And then this one is much brighter, and I'm going to take it down to about 10. This will be my focal light now. And so I kind of just put those there. And then here's the trick. Again, don't hit render or you'll lose what you just did. You just click in the viewport and hit Control R for render. And as you can see, up comes the next render window. And it didn't load anything else because I didn't need it to. Okay, and here's the finished render. Still a little bit bright here. Could probably tone down one of the lights a little bit, but I would say all in all, not too bad. So that's how you use Matrix Art to make a ring like that. Thanks for watching.